commercial products like Mother's, Mag and Aluminum, Fritz, or one of my favorites, Neverdoll.
Really?
Yeah, it works pretty good on, you know, it's, because it is magic. It says right on it.
What does it ever do?
So one of the first things you need to think about if you're going to do abrasive polishing, where we take material away with some sort of powered wheel or whatever, you need to think about safety. I quit buying regular glasses after I had safety glasses and a regular pair and was wearing the wrong one when the table saw kicked back. I never did find that lens. So these aren't safety glasses. This is cataract surgery yet, but when I go back, it'll be safety glasses. Wear a face shield over it if you wear glasses. Keeps the stuff out off your face a little bit. Gives you another layer of safety. Okay. Wear gloves. Unless you're doing what? When shouldn't you wear gloves?
Whenever it's going to grab the glove.
Whenever you like polishing on a lathe or something like that, you don't want the glove to catch on anything. You don't want to do the wrap around and pull.
That's why I don't wear jewelry.
You don't want to wear jewelry, dude. You want to pinch the part between make a sandwich with the part and sandpaper up and down and polish with the lathe. Just basic safety. Okay, what can you polish? Well, mostly we end up polishing aluminum because that's what we scratch up the most. Now, I said that we had commercial Flits and Mothers. Now, you can tell from this, my dog preferred the Flits. He took it out of the package for me. You can polish. You can polish steel. Well, why would you ever want to do that? You do it before you chrome. Polish everything nice and smooth. It's interesting. This is done with 120 grit on a flap wheel. You'd think it's a little coarser than what it is. Well, okay. Polishing plastic, you want to polish polycarbonate face shield, for example, on a bike. And you really don't need to invest a lot. I got some old Novus plastic polish and put on with a cloth and do it. If it's deeply scratched or you got a lot to do, what you want instead is just go buy a headlight restoration kit. It'll have the foam pad in it, it'll have 1 or 2 levels of abrasive, it'll take the scratches out and look nice and clean. And it's $20-25 for McGuire's or somebody else's brand of headlight restoration.
That's for windshields?
That's for windshields, that's for face mask on your...
Works good on any polycarbonate.
And then we get to what should you polish?
So can you get scratches off of a windshield by doing that, or does it make it too dull?
No, it shines it up. It gives you a nice flat surface again, which is what you're after. There's a chart that shows categories of scratches in material. It's designed for paint. I thought about including it because it, you know, does the scratch just penetrate the clear? Does the scratch penetrate the color and the primer? Does it get down to metal? Basically, we hardly ever go more than a clear coat on aluminum. And I don't know why, Jim may know, he knows everything else. Why don't you ever clear coat chrome? Does it not stick?
Never even occurred to me to try.
Okay, well, somebody will overdo that, anything, so. This is an example of what you shouldn't polish. You know, the ring is fine, that's the way it came. You know, the mount's okay, but in here you've got the original casting. Now, if you take that out, then you're gilding the lily. You're overdoing the restoration. And the other example I talk about in here is the guys that take an aluminum frame bike and polish out the aluminum, dress all the welds until they're smooth. They don't have enough to do. I got plenty of things to do before I start polishing my frame. And as the blacksmith in my hometown used to say, I don't know why they're being so busy making those welds grind off nice. I put them in there for strength. You shouldn't be taking metal away. We can pass that around. Any guess what it's from?
A Honda.
Good guess. No.
Jack will know.
Norton,
Norton, very good.
what do I get?
How about some Neverdoll? It's magic. Okay. Then we get into tools. What's it take to do it? Well, there's a lot of different ways to do it. You know, if you want to just sandpaper finer and finer grip by hand with a little oil, then you're out just sandpaper and oil, and you'll be there a long time. I like to use what's called an expanding wheel. It's got some give to it, so that when you polish something like primary cover, it doesn't dig in. It just smooths the top. Now you can make it dig in. You can screw anything up if you work at it hard enough. But you get a wheel, buy some bands that fit around it. Centrifugal force locks the band in place when you run it up. The only caution about this is Kenny can vouch for me, I'm really slow getting things done. And you go pull these things out. Oh, yeah, I bought a bunch of that because I was going to do a bike, 10 years ago. And I'm just now getting around to it. What happens is, just like on a belt sander, if it's too old, the tape comes off and the thing flies apart before you get any use out of it. So don't overbuy when you buy some, because 10 years down the road, it's not going to work for you.
Where you buy these at?
Eastwood. It's the only place I know that carries them.
Do you use anything with that, any type of cream or anything?
That's a good question. You've got various grids there, and I think it gives you the grit range in that.
But do you run two of these? How you hold the belt? The belt, or does the belt just go around?
The belt just goes around to that.
Oh, okay.
So you're just replacing the abrasive when you change things.
Does that go on a drill, or what does it go on?
It goes on a bench grinder.
A bench grinder?
Okay, now we're going to talk about why you just want a bench grinder. At some point, you're gonna be holding this up against cotton buffing wheel or whatever, and it's, you know, rolling in here, you're fine. You keep this tilted back, because what will happen is you'll go, I can get just a little more, and it catches on this lip. At that point, it takes it away from you. Let it go. It's gonna scratch up no matter what you do. Don't let it take your fingers. Wear your gloves, grip by the edges, and if you screw up, admit it and let it go. Don't think, I can hold this. Now, if that sounds like somebody that has experienced it, I have. So, normally, I got like 1.5 million steps in the process. Let's go through the tools. You've got a bench grinder to run the bands. Then you have cotton wheels or sisal wheels. Sisal is a little coarser. And they get charged with a compound. Now everybody sells a compound. There's Triple E, there's the Rouge, and you really just need to buy an assortment. I'm thinking about, now where did I buy that assortment? Oh yeah, that was probably J.C. Whitney. I won't be doing that anymore. So you work just like sanding. You go from a coarse to a finer and a finer. This is just wax. And once you put the band on the expander wheel, you charge it with wax. I call it grinder's grease. And that fills up the pores so it doesn't fill up with aluminum. It lets you cut longer before you need to change the abrasive band out. Now, you can use a buffing wheel, and I'll admit I own one. And the nice thing about it is it has the extended shaft, so the body of it's here, the cotton buff is over here, and you've got room to work around at all sides. On a bench grinder, well, I wish I could reach that somehow, and you can't sometimes. So you work by hand. But the reason I have a buffing wheel is not because I want more horsepower, because more horsepower and more speed, because it's a larger wheel, tends to make it want to take it away from me more. I use it on guitar lacquer. So when restoring guitars, that's the paint buffing that I know. You'll also have, there are small polishing wheels like this, use the same compound as the regular one. I like to use these with a die grinder, get a lot of speed and a lot of access, because the wheel sets out and you're looking by itself. If you want to get down into the little stuff, we have your ex-Upnar polishing buffing wheel from some Asian company. This, again, safety, not suitable for children under 3 years due to small parts. So, just keep that in mind when you put the grandkids to work. But it's like $10 for, I don't know how many pieces. 100 pieces? Yeah, it's 100 piece assortment. But you're gonna be working weeks with something that small. Harbor Freight, Cling Spore, they do nothing but abrasives. And Eastwood, between those three, you should be able to find whatever you want. And a wheel, die grinder for the mop. That's a wheel going around. A mop is a cone-shaped piece that you use, typically you saw for cleaning mag wheels and things like that. Dremel tool, and the 4.5-inch grinder, which I didn't bring, but here's a 120 grit flat wheel that wears away as you use it. Got multiple levels.
Oh, yeah, tiger ball. We call it ball, tiger ball. What? Tiger ball. Ball makers call them tiger ball. Ball maker.
And that's what I use on that piece of angle iron.
Tiger ball is good.
And the other thing that happens is as you use an abrasive, it wears also, and you get down to, it acts as if it has a finer grit than when you start. So as it wears down, the scratch side is down. Polishing. Okay, now we're gonna talk about materials. I never use anything other than wet and dry, because you can use it dry. They have grits.
I've never used them before. I'm always scared.
Don't you worry about taking anything on it. Doesn't take a lot of time. I mean, it's quick.
Yeah, that one, that's an aggressive piece. And now, if you really want to do it right, you can get by without ever using polishing compound, because micro mesh with these little sponge loaded ones go up to 12,000 grit. Not 1,200, 12,000 grit.
Looks like talcum powder, isn't it?
It does its best.
What is micro mesh?
It's just another, it's a foam, two-sided adhesive sheet with foam in the middle. So when you're doing things by hand, let's see. Oh, can I have that? Can I have that rubber from the other? When you work by hand, just like when you're doing sanding paint, you don't want to just bare hand the abrasive. You want to have a block behind it of some kind to help you smooth without, you know, if you go back and forth with two fingers, you're going to get a little lump in there. So this is a closed cell foam. It's got some give to it, but it's pretty stiff. And that's what I use behind paper. I also use WD-40 for the lubricant. Don Holmes said he never could figure out what WD-40 was good for. Well, it's good for this. So.
You mean it's good for wet sanding? Is
It's
that what
good
that
for
is?
wet sanding.
Okay.
You can also use water. It's a little messier. I won't tell you who said this. No, they're not in this club.
Yeah.
But I called somebody one day and got his answering machine. He called me back and said, "Well, I was busy. I was in the tub wet sanding." What? He was between wives at the time. So
Not sure what his wet.
Never tried WD-40.
Unfortunately, I can't get the image out of my head. So,
You might
This
not
is the
want to put
size
that
of
on the web.
mop. This is the size of wheel that you use with a buffer, a big buffer. And obviously it's fine German. Yes, I know you're back there. This is what you charge the buffalo. Okay, normally you can see triple rouge or green stuff. Well, this is a little finer than those. It's really overkill for motorcycles, but I doubt that I'll ever go through these two bricks in my lifetime. Well, and just so I remember, I write first and last on the stick. That's another point that you want to avoid.
Yeah, do you, when you switch, do you change wheels?
Yes, you don't want to cross-contaminate. You're only going to get what appears to be the coarser rate if you charge the buffer with it. If you charge the wheel with the finer stuff while it still has the coarse stuff. By the cloth.
I label all my wheels, that's why I was wondering how you did, which one was stuff was on.
Well, mine's pretty easy because with just two of them, I use a bound one like the one that went around. It's got concentric circle stitch, and then for the final, I use an open flap. Okay, so we go through the whole process. Let's. Okay, one thing about aluminum is we polish things that have been repaired. So your timing cover or whatever has a crack in it. You take it to your favorite welding shop and have it welded. Then you want to smooth it out so people don't know it was cracked before. Chances are that if you have a material match the first time, you're just really, really lucky. What you really need to do is have the welder weld on the back side of it for a minute. Try to polish that out and see if you can see a color line in between. Work with the welder to find a compatible alloy. So, last one I did was on Kawasaki, and it was the bottom of the crank in cap. It didn't quite match, and if somebody wants to lay on their back and try to get their head under there and see it, they're welcome to it. Sometimes you just have to call it close enough. Okay. Clean the part, evaluate, repair the part. I don't know if I didn't bring the one. That's a compound, it's an abrasive. But you get down on some of these and you're into a little porosity in the casting. What can you do about that? If you really, really have to, you can drill a little bit and fill it and grind it off, and then you'll have another one over here. So
Chasing it around.
you're chasing it around. You know, it's inherent to the piece. Sometimes you start. I did a partial like Tom did for the paint. A little harder to keep your masking tape intact as you're grinding beside it, so the lines aren't really clear. This is what was laying around the shop, just a raw. It's complete, it's got some scratches on it. This is with a 220 grit band on that expander wheel, then to a 320 grit on the expander wheel, and the same 320 by hand with WD-40 oil, and then a coarse buffer. Now, I just kind of ran through the steps. Obviously, I would just start with this engine, go backwards or anything when I'm ready. I have no incentive to do it until somebody falls and breaks another primary cover, because I got like 4 of them right here. So, grits, 120 grit isn't always 120 grit. It can vary by manufacturer. It varies a lot by what you're using it on, whether it wears and makes a lesser grit as you work it. I try, my break point, helped by the fact that they don't sell anything finer, I don't believe, than 40 or 400 grit on those expander bands. At that point, I changed to hand sanding with oil. Basic rule, don't be greedy. If you're working with 120 grit, don't jump to 400. You just spend all day trying to get those deep scratches out. 220 grit, 320 grit, 400 grit, you can go to 600 from there. I would hope that I never had to go down to 12,000 on a cover, but it certainly wouldn't match anything else that I have. Oh, one of my favorite things. Back when Nick Einhardt was, I think he was with Motorcyclist at the time, he did an article and said that you know it's working because the part's getting hot. Heat's doing the polishing. I've waited 30 years to answer that. If heat is doing the polishing, why can't I polish with a torch? Heat's a byproduct. It's a waste byproduct. If you got heat, that's work being done to make heat and not polishing the piece that you're trying to polish. And again, always present the piece to the buffer with the upper edge tipped towards you. If she catches, let her go. Are there any questions? Yes.
Where do you buy Never Dull?
You can buy it online. You can buy it at Walmart.
Okay, and how about, if a guy just wants to polish some aluminum on an old Commando, for instance, and he doesn't want to take the part off, is there a handheld buffer, battery operated, or plug it in, that anybody can use?
You can use that little mop with the 1/4-inch shaft in a cordless drill.
Say that again.
Okay, somewhere we ended up with a wheel that's about this big around. Anybody got that little cloth wheel?
There's a little one right there.
Oh, sorry, I got it.
Okay.
Put that in a cordless drill. You use compound.
It works.
Yeah,
It works.
it's better than doing it by hand.
Yeah.
Right. And
You can get
know,
around.
you can still polish by hand with a rag and some polishing compound, once you get up on the fender where it's mounted,
Yeah.
But yes, take advantage of somebody else's energy.
So if you had a Honda 550 and
She'd shoot me.
and the shock was really dull, and you wanted to use that, what would you put on that to polish it?
Probably Rouge.
Just, is there different levels of rouge or
I don't know.
just a rouge?
Come on.
So it's a rouge and a wheel.
Yeah,
Okay.
minimal outlay. That little set of, Dremel ones,
Yeah.
you can get a set with 1/4-inch drive for about 15 bucks. That's like 10 bucks. 13, 15 bucks,
This one's for
Amazon.
like a Dremel or something. isn't it?
Right. You wanna go one step up.
Well, the Dremel, would you put it on as high as speed or slow it down?
If I had a little cone-shaped one, I use the highest speed. If I have a wheel, I'd slow it down.
Okay.
It's just like the other consequence of going to a big buffer, like a 1/2 or 3/4 horse buffer with a long shaft, is now you're spinning 8-inch buffs instead of 6-inch buffs. So everything's, the effective, the tip speed of the wheel is 1/3 faster. Not always, okay, faster isn't always better.
So to see what you're saying, maybe is the smaller the buffer, the higher the speed, whereas
You
the
can
larger
get,
is
you
slower.
can get by with less, and that's why, you know, a Dremel runs at, how fast do they run? 5,000?
20,000.
Yeah, it's up there.
It's about 20.
About 20? I have a Braxton, a step up from the Dremel. Dremels they were disposable tools before that was popular. Anyway, any other questions? Well, thanks for staying awake.
Make it time. Make sure you get all this stuff back in.
Oh,
Also, don't forget
That was a good line.
to tip the waitress.
Hi, John.
Hi, Dave.
How are you?